go, Rick?
Yep.
All right. And get into this at 7 o'clock. I'm here. Mr. Woods is absent tonight, and so is Mr. Mannix. Hey, Barb, Ricky, Jim. I see nothing for public comment, but we will certainly get to our guest this evening in a moment. Lori, I'd really like to thank you personally as it relates to the pickleball and the CBPH Foundation and also our New York Foundation. Last week I had the good fortune to stand with the town supervisor from Saranac along with the mayor and a number of other community members to see the kind of a ribbon cutting of sorts for a number of new pickleball courts throughout our region. And I can tell you that this lifelong sport has gained a following that is almost unprecedented for this area. I mean, people have just been really getting right into it, and they did the morning show. A number of the veterans of the pickleball club and Lori helped to organize that, but Lori was instrumental in helping to really move that forward in our community. So from me to you, thank you very much. And it really just, to see that action there really speaks volumes about what this community does in the health and wellness arena. You know, and it actually, I'll go back to my other supervisor's report in a moment, but I don't want to keep you here too long. This actually brings me to why Lori's here tonight. In a similar fashion, we have another possible opportunity to collaborate, and Lori's area of expertise, I think, will guide us well. So I'll kick it off to you.
Great. Did everybody receive the project overview that says August?
They received Trevor's letter
No.
along with the map and such.
I brought some tonight.
Okay.
Just in case I wasn't sure.
Thank you.
I have an extra. The New York State Health Foundation, who is currently funding the 2-year project we're in, and the first year is nearing an end. The second year begins October 1st. They are very tuned into what we're doing here in the North Country. So this past summer, as I was going to some of the feasibility study presentations for the waterfront development and the feasibility study for the Saranac River Trail Greenway and those types of activities, I started to wonder if it was possible to approach the New York State Health Foundation to see if they were interested in beginning to fund some of the spurs or nodes off of the Saranac River Trail Greenway. The town of Plattsburgh, the Lapeer Lane node, which I think is one of 5 or 6, that was part of the Lake Champlain Waterfront Development Study. That one has come to the point where it's been determined to be shovel ready. That means that all of the requirements for the process that you have to go through, with the exception of DEC, because that happens simultaneously when you do the engineering work with that, it is shovel ready. So I spoke to my contact person, Bronwyn Starr, about 6 weeks ago, and I asked her if she would entertain the possibility, and she said yes, send me down a 2-pager. So the 2-pager you have in front of you has morphed 2 or 3 times, and it's gonna morph again. And then we decided that it was time to approach the foundation of CBPH, because once again, we would ask that group to sponsor the grant in partnership with the town of Plattsburgh to do the Lapeer Lane spur, or the node. This, again, would be a $200,000 application, but the timeline would be a 1-year timeline. So as I've been having these discussions with the foundation of CBPH and their board earlier this month, in fact, one woman on the board, I can't remember who she was, said, this is a no-brainer. And after we left, they unanimously said yes, they would agree to sponsor again. So then I went to the Saranac River Trail Greenway, which is the board that is doing the 26 miles. And they have feasibility study and work that they have to do for that core 26 miles. So Trevor and I spoke to them last week, we spoke to them, and they're very supportive of any municipality, public effort to try and get some of these spurs done. So now we determined it was time to come and speak to the town board here, to bring you up to speed, to talk about the possibility of allowing, the town of Plattsburgh to partner with CDPH. And it would be a partnership, a public-private type of a partnership, with CDPH holding all of the dollars, with me under the grant as a project manager, working very closely with Trevor and Michael and Phil to get the work done. And getting, you guys would be the first spur that would be done on the Saranac River Trail Greenway. Like I said, it's a large grant application, it's $200,000. What's nice about the New York State Health Foundation is when they allow you to, apply, and they determine that they will fund you, they immediately wire up 80% of the money. So nobody's having to wait for the money. The one concern that the foundation, and this is not the board, but this is Carrie Haley, who's the executive director, she and I discussed over the last 5-6 weeks, is the nice thing about having the money come through the foundation is they aren't bound by the requirements that municipalities are with getting the bids over 5,000, over 10,000 going out, all of that. They're not bound by that. But it would be beneficial for the foundation because this would be a large, looked at type of a project to do the right thing and approach for multiple bids to give businesses opportunities. So we would add those steps in there. We had hoped that the foundation was going to allow us to submit an application on October 17th. And late last week, I let Michael know that they were leaning towards, and Trevor knows too, leaning towards after the first of the year. And I have a scheduled phone call with the Health Foundation tomorrow afternoon. They're looking to consider to allowing us to submit an application, which would be in January for consideration at their March 2017 board. I think what they want is they want some more tweaking of the 2-page overview. They want a little more detailing, even though the grant application itself is very extensive. They like to have all of the information encapsulated for them. I do know that the emails going back and forth between me and Bronwyn Starr today were very much, let me go and talk to my boss, her coming back and saying, we want you guys to wait until after the first of the year. So to me, that still is very, very encouraging that she went to her boss and said, so we still think that this is a very good opportunity. I still feel very good about them allowing us to apply because I know these people well enough. After all these years, they would have just stopped me dead in my tracks because they would have had other things going on. Because while these are competitive grants, you're really only competing with yourself because they have significant resources. So that's where we are, the Lapeer Lane, and I think you all have a schematic. And I have a nice large one comprehensive the county planning department. What's nice about this is we've already started to discuss, and you have to lay a lot of groundwork, and the New York State Health Foundation knows that I'm laying this groundwork. They've given me approval to begin laying this groundwork. So they know everybody that I've talked to. It's not like I'm doing this, but they know. In fact, I remind them all the time to make sure they know. Where we're thinking of bringing this is starting at Roderick Rock, because you need a beginning and you need an end. Roderick Rock Apartments is a very, if you've never been back there, it's just beautiful. So we would be approaching them over the next couple of weeks and asking them if they would like to consider being the starting point for their own residents' benefits, as well as perhaps approaching them in the future to be a holder of fishing equipment, because the Lapeer Lane brings you right down to the river, and helping out the recreation department by distributing, loaning out stuff, by purchasing snowshoes for their own residents to keep them out in the winter and doing things. The Eastern Eastern Adirondack Healthcare Network is already purchasing 2 or 3 chairs or benches that will be located along that area, including one right at the end of Roderick Rock Apartments. Then you would come down the street and cross the street, and my understanding is that Trevor already has begun that discussion with DOT to talk about doing a safe walking across that roadway, because it is rather busy, going down Lapeer, and then coming around the Saranac River. This, coming from Roderick Rock Apartments this way down, is very, very close to being a mile loop. There's also the possibility of, at this juncture right down here, doing an extension onto Jan Street, which is also a dead-end street, and coming back. So that brings us more to the 1.25 to 1.5 mile loop that I think the New York State Health Foundation would prefer to see right in a concentrated area. This would be a mix of boardwalk, natural material. We would be looking at having the Northern Forest Canoe Trail already has designed a drop-in point right here for kayaks, canoes, and different things like that. And they actually have the funding to do this piece of it, which is already leverage that could easily be put in the grant, because even though the New York State Health Foundation does not require matching funds of any sort, they're very clear that they would like to see some leverage in the community. So this is part of that leverage right there. Then and it's just beautiful right along the Saranac River right there. We were thinking of putting in a very large decking area so that the Trout Unlimited people could do classes right there, that would be access for other individuals to be able to fish in that area. There's a significant area that would be in the middle that would have a family-friendly, with a possibility of electricity going to a gazebo or a pavilion type of situation. And then I call it the pinwheel, and off from the pinwheel would be individual or small, maybe 2-piece playground types of other physical activity opportunities. And those would be a natural material or a natural scape, very much like along the lines of what they have at the Tupper Lake Wild Center. So that's what the thought is. We would increase the parking availability. Lapeer Lane would be striped so that it could be accessible by bike or by runners or walkers, because there is not a sidewalk on that area. We did bring representatives of the New York State Health Foundation down there, I think it was sometime in June, just to give them an idea of what the area looked like. So again, they would have said, great idea, Lori, but we're not interested, and they did not say that, so they saw the location. So there's a lot of things that are favorable for this to happen, but it would most certainly be a very strong partnership between the Town of Plattsburgh representation here, this authoritative board, working with the foundation of CVPH. I would work, like I said, very closely with Trevor, Michael, and Phil. And then you guys would be updated periodically. This would move very fast to get this done in a year. But we don't, Trevor and I both feel that it's very, very possible to get it done that quickly.
Now, Lori, with this, you're also looking for corporate and business partners to become involved?
Actually, there would be the potential for that. That is the other nice thing about being with the foundation of CVPH. I'm actually gonna start a little later on this summer, early fall, going out to some of the businesses in the community that don't currently give to the foundation of CVPH to fund the Fitness in the Parks program next year, and you guys are aware of that. So what we're going to do with this is, the plan is, if the foundation of if the New York State Health Foundation allows us to put an application in, one of the first things that we thought that we should do is Carrie, Haley, and myself would go out to some of the larger corporations in the community and get them to give us a letter of support with an indication of the amount that they would put towards this. It's our thought that this would be easier to sponsor, and this is just off the top of my head. Let's say Curtis Lumber wants to sponsor the deck and provide the material for that. Let's say Schluter, and I'm just coming up with names, wants to do the gazebo, or somebody wants to buy a couple of the pieces of playground equipment. I think it's very possible that those places would like that. And then there would be a wooden type of sign that said, this area sponsored by.
And the reason I'm asking is if a business currently supports the CVPH Foundation, but if their philosophy and their mission and their objectives align compatibly with what you're doing, that's, I guess, why I'm bringing that up.
Yeah. One of the things, and I have to agree with Carrie Haley, and she's been doing this for a while, is this is an opportunity for the foundation of CVPH to also engage with some of the smaller businesses in the community that can handle this type of an ask. Versus like a Schluter who Carrie wouldn't think twice about going in and asking for $25,000. We're looking more for the $500, the $1,000.
I'm just wondering, is there any estimate of the cost to maintain this?
The cost to maintain this is one of the things that the New York State Health Foundation would look for, is that when this is done, is that the town of Plattsburgh would agree to or pass by resolution the commitment to assume this under its umbrella. So that means that any of the equipment that would be purchased, you would assume all of the warranty that goes along with it, the 15, 20-year warranty. It would come under the same criteria for your other playgrounds in situations. This would be more along the lines of what they call a passive park. People would go in and use it. The recreation department would sponsor different things like the Trout Unlimited or the Northern Forest Canoe Trail people coming in. It would be a little different than some of the other parks where they do activities like baseball, softball, all of that. It's more of a passive.
Well, and you also have a certain level of buy-in to see that maintained at a level. You know, if a business or a civic organization gets behind this particular program, they're gonna wanna upkeep their piece of the puzzle a lot of times. Also looking at Roderick Rock, we're talking about some opportunities to collaborate with them with some maintenance features and structures. You know, with such emphasis on the public-private partnership, I think this is really a manageable way for us to experiment with that design. We do have an LWRP that we're gonna be looking at, you know, in the coming weeks. And there's some great things on there, and there's some things that I don't necessarily agree with, but it was community visioned, and, you know, now if we're going to deploy that, we have to find responsible ways to do this. You know, we may not be able to get every feature in this, but certainly I think there's some opportunity to bring some people to the table. We even talked about Lucky's, for example. You know, Lucky's is right up the corner there. You know, they could potentially brand a trail mix. You know, they could do, I mean, there's all kinds of different things that I think celebrate the concept of community and get involved in this, so.
We would definitely be engaging SUNY Plattsburgh students in their environmental sciences area, because you've got the flora, the fauna, you've got the fish, you've got all of those natural things, that there would be resources to be able to do some of those really nice signs. There would be that nice kiosk at the beginning of the trail that talks about all the partners involved in it and what the purpose is of the trail. There's a lot of opportunity for us to engage that community right there in Lapeer Lane area of the hamlet of Morrisonville to perhaps put in place a beautification committee that would go around and just make sure that things are cleaned up. Because you don't want to have another like receptacle for garbage that somebody has to go pick up. But a Girl Scout troop in that community could go out and do that once a week. I mean, there's lots of opportunity.
Lori, one of the other things that I thought that really got me excited about this and thinking about the different relationships that we can develop is we have this healing and meditative garden, you know, BHMN, thank you. You know, could certainly be an agency that we could collaborate with. I mean, there's lots of different opportunities here,
Yes.
which.
I mean, you've had, I think it was the Advocacy and Resource Center that was making at least weekly visits down to the Katyville Beach with their bus, and that was a great outing. This would be another community outing place for folks. One of the other things that we've written in here that, and it was the New York State Health Foundation that came up with this idea, they wanted Trevor and I to put together a manual. And we did this when I was at the health department for another project where Trevor helped on how you do, good streets and all of that, is how you do a manual for a rural community to get things done. So I had written into part of the budget for a 3 to 5 minute video. And the video would be promoting this partnership between the foundation of CBPH, the New York State Health Foundation, and the Town of Plattsburgh. So now, to do this community manual that would be distributed across New York State, that would be the gist of the video now, the how-to. How do you move your community to do this? How do you get your stakeholders to support and say yes? How do you establish this relationship between a local foundation and a municipality? How do you get your engineers that end up doing your studies for this to do it at a really good cost? So those are the things that the New York State Health Foundation likes to see, is that community buy-in, that community leverage that aren't necessarily actual dollars. I mean, here's another example. I had to let them know last month, because I'm writing my year-end report for the grant we're in right now with the pickleball, the foot golf, and the fitness. So I got an email about a month ago that said, so how much do you think you've leveraged in your community? And it took me 3 minutes to do a reply email, because even though it wasn't actual dollars, I leveraged at South Acres Park in the city of Plattsburgh, where they now have 5 permanent pickleball courts. The city dumped $10,000 into their basketball court that was right next door that they would not have done. The United Methodist Church on Beacon Street took 22 parking spaces of their parking lot to establish 2 pickleball courts there. The town of Plattsburgh, because we had enough resources, or we were very close to having resources, that we put 2 pickleball courts in Cliff Haven. Mel and Michael, everybody looked at the budget and said, well, let's do the tennis court at the same time, because Vermont tennis. So those weren't actual dollars, but they were leveraged dollars that brought other things up. So they considered that all appropriate.
I would argue that they are dollars, but using them.
Yes.
And I think that's important to
You
know.
know what I-
No, using them to, to optimize,
Yes.
the fullness of what might be there.
Yeah, because those weren't planned things, like in the city of Plattsburgh, Steve is like, okay, let me see where I can find some money where I can do this at the same time. But that's what they look at. How else did you improve your community?
Now, are they gonna still consider this part of that 127-mile canoe trail that they had talked about
Of
a
the
year
Northern
ago?
Forest Canoe
Yeah,
Trail, yes,
But
that
still
is
gonna-
what that launch site would be.
Okay, so it's still gonna be
Yeah,
included in
it's
that.
still there, and
Yeah, yeah.
in fact,
Yes.
Ricky, there was probably about 3 or 4 times over the last couple of years, I mean, that doesn't seem a lot over the years, but you're happening about, I've bumped into one couple that was from California, one I think was from Michigan, I forget where the others were, and they have these little things that they stick their boats on when the river is too
Too
low,
cold, yep.
and they walk it
Yep.
down to get into the next section. But doing some of my own research, the individuals that tend to take this journey have a significant disposable income. I mean, this is a journey, and
I
a lot
guess
of
it
them
is.
will, take their boat out, and they'll have paddled for, a couple days, maybe camped off, or what have you. But they may stay in a hotel to rest up for a couple more days, and then, buy some things and ship them home. I mean, it's a really unique thing for us to be
Yep.
a part of, and Plattsburgh's identified with that, along with a lot of other communities.
We run into a lot of people hiking that are from different states, that they schedule their vacations to come strictly here to do that, and
Yeah.
they're staying in motels, eating in restaurants.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lori, respecting your time, I know we're like the authoritative body, or I try not to use that word so strongly, but help me understand, I'd like to hear your thoughts of how can we help influence in other ways? What would you see our role beyond just, these are sessions for this kind of discussion, so I'd be interested in your thoughts.
You've actually done a lot of the hard work already, because Trevor and the planning department have brought you through the processes necessary to have your feasibility studies and everything come to these points. You've done the hard work. At this point, the greatest thing that can be done is supporting the continued work of these spurs. Because even though this is one piece that we might be able to pull off, there's 5 other pieces. So not giving up on the fact that there are some dollars out there, looking for those dollars, that when reports are brought back to you, knowing that, you know, things at this point are pretty well set for how it's going to look, and working within those, that infrastructure that's already been established. The light would be shining very brightly on the town of Plattsburgh because of the fact that this would be the first spur, or the planning people call it a node.
I think it also connects to the larger concept of regionalization. You know, because of Lori's forward thinking, you know, this isn't the only project in the area. It's probably the only one for the town as it relates to this, but Skylar Falls and Saranac. And they will turn to us and say, you know, how did it work? You know, what are some areas of improvement? To say any project is gonna be perfect is just, you know, you're not thinking with your head on straight. So I think we have the resources to get a good project that we can all be proud of and serve our community well, while helping to assist the regionalization and the continuation of the Saranac River Trail, et cetera, so.
I mean, there are certainly other opportunities that if this were to be successful, if it's funded and it's successful, and I have no doubt it would be successful, and I know that Ron the Star knows that we're proud of the work that we do up here. I've already had a very quick discussion with Nick Carter up in Saranac, a quick discussion with Rick Potiker. It's my hope that if the town were to be, if the hospital gets funded in the town and we do this, that the others will be put in the queue for future funding. It may not be, you know, successive years, but maybe every couple of years get some more money to do it. This group down in New York City very much wants to see the Saranac River Trail Greenway. The minute I mentioned that it was that, they said outside of the city of Plattsburgh, and I said yes, because we've laid the groundwork for inside the city. Everything is moving along to do those blue trails behind the high school, behind the college. All of that is being set now. It's really kind of sad when 2011 money and grant money that was applied for is just finally being spent. But that's because it's Department of State and they have a lot of logistics and challenges to get through. So they were very happy when I said, yes, we're jumping into the next township, and then it would be the one furthest up to the other end of the Saranac. I can't think of the name of their, the hiking place up there. See what happens when you get old and cycle?
High Falls or
No.
I'm not
Jim
sure which-
King's group up there that were trying to get the
Land
Saranac.
Trust.
Thank
Oh,
you
okay.
very much,
Land
Meg.
The power of group thinking.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Thanks,
Thank you, Lauren, really.
You're
welcome.
And
Keeping us
we'll
well
give,
informed.
we'll give the, you know, some consideration during our next meeting, and we'll be in contact. And just, again, thank you from pickleball to this thing, so.
This is fun stuff.
That's good. Thank you, Lauren.
All right, safe travels.
Bye.
Just kind of, again, jumping around, one of the things that I put down here is budget meetings. Traditionally, we've done a course of, and I'm using the word very loosely here in the sense of budget meetings, but we've done a series of about 2 to 3 days of hearings where we have department heads come in, they present their budgets, and, you know, we talk it out and flush it out. What I'm proposing through some conversations that I've had with a number of people over the last couple of years, and now that I'm in this seat, I'd like to try something different, and that's to do a Saturday workshop, where we would convene, say, starting at 9 AM, go through and do it all in one day. So I may be bringing a resolution forward to you folks for that consideration. you know, I think there's a number of positive things behind it. I know that we don't always get a large attendance, but I have been advocating for more opportunity for transparency. You know, when you have it over a course of several days, I think that minimizes an individual's ability to maybe get there. I argued when I was on the council, the time that the workshops were not always convenient for an individual that had a work schedule. Again, we're not going to solve all the issues of, you know, scheduling and stuff, but I will be bringing something before you for consideration that may be a little bit different. Saturdays often, you know, still have other conflicts with, you know, soccer and baseball and, you know, whatever activities, but I don't think we should be fearful of trying something new and seeing what the results are. I also asked Patrick what his thoughts were to it, and he also liked the idea of being able to kind of cluster everything together and to execute. When you are disrupting several days, the workflow can just kind of get, you know, gunked up and stuff like that. So more to come from that. I would just bring to your attention, and I made a note on my phone, so if you can just bear with me for a second, I just want to make sure I get this date correct. The receiver did place 2 large posters in the mausoleum asking, please remove all personal items from the fronts of the crypts and niches by September 1st. They continue to try to maintain and take care of that space, realizing that people aren't in that facility day in and day out. They're just trying to get that message out there. So if you know of anybody, you know, anyone that has family or friends, please just pass that message along and help us out there.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. I saw I could see the signs
Yeah.
on the road, I wanted to stop in, so
And you know,
you can't see them.
I asked, I was like, what, and they were like, because they kind of jump off the frontage, people
They do.
that drive by, you know, may kind of swing over them and say, what, you know, what's going on there. There is a draft for the meeting minutes there. We also have a draft for the 2016 base sewer lining project payment estimate number 1. And then we also have a bid award for the Maycourier well testing for consideration there as well. So those are the formal resolutions for consideration. Don't forget, 5th meeting of the month will be next Monday, so we will not have a meeting next Monday. But I would make a motion, we do have one item for consideration in executive session tonight for proposed and pending or current litigation for certiorari work with Champlain Center Mall, and make that motion.
And also the following, if I'm not mistaken, the following meeting's on
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yep.
Right, that's right.
Yep. Is there a second to that motion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, abstentions? All right, we're gonna enter executive session at 7:33 PM. And I don't anticipate.
Could I make a comment? I'll probably forget. I believe the street light down here on 347 and Banker Road is out.
Okay.
I think, I went by it last night and it wasn't there. But I'm-
If it's out, email me tonight and I
Okay.
can forward it to Art.
Well, see, it's light now, so,
Right.
but I went by around 8:30 last night and it was dark out and it wasn't on, so, I don't know.
Thank you.
Aye.
I forgot to call Art, so that's why, but I'll tell you and maybe one of these days he'll get it.
Thank you.
There,
Quick and easy?
yeah, and Ricky didn't even have to read tonight.